that they understand really what's the difference between like investing, speculating, why there's a need for valuation. So it's pretty. The audience will be people who know nothing about it. Yeah, about investing. They just want to give a.
I mean, I think of investing as a 5-step process, and I tell people that if you want to be a successful investor, you have to start off by knowing yourself. What makes you comfortable, what makes you uncomfortable. Because in a sense, if you don't know yourself, you're going to make decisions that are not in your comfort zone, and then you're going to do stupid things to kind of offset that. By knowing yourself, I would say be honest with yourself about what your cash flow needs are, what your liquidity needs are, what your income is, how secure your job is. All those things have to start off by setting the landscape. Once you've set the landscape and said, this is how much money I have, this is how much money I can expect to make, this is what I can afford to invest. The second step is looking at that investment saying, well, how much risk am I comfortable taking? And one very simple way to frame the question is to ask, what is the most you'd be willing to lose of that investment you're making right now that you're okay with? Is it 10%, is it 5, is it 15, is it 20? Because that gives you some perspective on how much you can invest in risky assets and how much you have to go in safe assets. If you tell me the most you're willing to lose is 10%, you can't have more than 50% of your investments in stocks. If you tell me the most you're willing to lose is 5%, you can't have more than 25% of your money in stocks. If you tell me that you don't want to ever lose money, then I'm going to tell you not to ever buy stocks. And the very simple rule is a bad year for the stock market is about a 25% drop in the stock market. You can have a abysmal year, but a bad year is about 25%. So if you tell me how much you're willing to lose, I can give you a sense of what the allocation should be between risky assets. The third step is being realistic. When people tell me they want to, say, how can I invest to get rich? I say that's the wrong attitude. You invest not to get rich, but to preserve what you made elsewhere and to grow it. Investment is about preservation of capital and growing capital, not. Are there some people who become rich from investing? Sure. But they're the wrong role models to use here because they got rich because they got lucky. And if you invest on the hope that you can get rich, you're going to overreach. You're going to take investments you shouldn't be taking. You're going to do stupid things, and you're going to be prey for every con man out there who says, look, I can get, because you want to make a 20% return, so you can delude yourself and think, I know it sounds shady, but this guy sounds okay. So I think that investing is a way in which you take what you make in the rest of your life. If you're a doctor, you're an engineer, you're a cab driver, if you take that income and you try to preserve it and grow it. Because if you get realistic about that's what investing is about, then you also get less greedy and more sensible in your choices about investing. The fourth step is to not let leakages from leakages in the sense you don't want to pay somebody 1% of your capital every year to manage your money. You don't want to pay people to do things when they can't add value to you. Most of them really don't add value. You want to minimize those deadweight costs because those deadweight costs are very difficult to make up for in the market. So you want to go for the lowest cost funds. You want to avoid mutual funds which have these big upfront loads and big management fees. You want to go for the funds with the lower cost. Because when you have big upfront fees and a big management costs, it's very difficult to make up for it in the market and end up with a return that is low. So do your homework. You look at mutual funds, don't go for the mutual fund that made the most money last year. Go for the mutual fund that made less money but was more efficient about the way it was run. Because the mutual fund that made the most money last year could lose the most money this year because it's anybody's ball game. But the fund that was efficiently run with low cost is going to have low cost next year as well. So do your homework in terms of what the options are and go for the lowest cost, most efficient way in which you can grow your money. Will you get rich from doing this? No. You will not find the fund that triples your money next year by doing this, but if you go searching for that fund, I guarantee you're also opening up the door to losing all of your money or worse. Because that's exactly how bad things happen to people is your overreach.
So, I mean, predominantly people when they want to invest, they talk about different people talk about the top-down approach from macro to micro and the bottom-up companies. And
I'm
so
not, I'll tell you, I do very little macro thinking because I've discovered that it's impossible to forecast macro variables.
So is there a right?
Interest rates and inflation, I mean, it's anybody's guess. So what I do is for my overall allocation decisions, I start with a very simple rule. I don't want to get too far away from how the world is invested. So if you drew a pie chart of what the world is invested in now, it's about probably 30% real estate, about 40% stocks, 20% bonds, and 10% everything else. So when I draw the pie chart for my portfolio, I want to get as close as I can to that world breakdown, because when I have a disproportion, so let's say my pie chart has 90% in real estate, I'm making a bet on real estate. And that requires that I can time these markets, and it's not in my wheelhouse. I'm not a good timer. I know I'm not a good timer. And when I try to time markets, I always end up regretting what I did. So I don't even try. So basically, my allocation decision becomes very simple. I want my end portfolio to look as close as I can to that global market cap portfolio of what asset classes look like right now. And then the follow-up question is, now that I have decided that 40% of my money should be in stock, because that's what the world's investment. The question I have to ask is, how do I get that stock investment? I could go the really low cost route and buy index funds, which are minimum cost, nobody's picking stocks, and say that's my 40%. The upside is I have very low cost. The downside is I'm going to make roughly what the market is going to pay. I could buy individual companies, but to do that I really have to understand what I'm doing. I have to be able to value companies or price them. I have to either be a really good trader or a really good investor. To be a really good trader, you got to be able to play the momentum. You got to be able to figure out when prices are going to stop going up and get out at that time. And there are people who are good traders. If that's your strength, you can say, look, I don't care about investing, I don't care about valuation, I'm just going to trade. I'm going to be gauging momentum and getting out of it. Or you can invest, in which case you have to be able to value companies. If you ask me, is valuation important? It depends on what you do. If you're going to invest in index funds, you don't care about valuation. It's almost automatic. If you're going to be a trader, you don't care about valuation, because valuation is not even part of what you invest. If you're going to be an investor, which means you're buying companies that you think are cheap given their cash flows and their operations, then you have to know what the value of the company is, because that's what you're betting on. You're betting getting this company for less than its value.
There's another common question for newbie investors they're talking about. Outside there are a lot of valuation methods like PE, price to book, and then earnings power value and all this stuff. So it may create confusion among people who get started. So is there like a right? Is there like a perfect? Is there an ideal? I know it's subjective.
It's, you know what? All those are actually variations in one equation. So it looks like there are 20 different ways to value a company, but it's like an algebra. If I wrote up an equation mathematically, it's like saying, I've discovered a new equation. It's E divided by M is equal to C squared. Well, that's just E is equal to MC squared, stated a different way. Or I can say, no, E divided by C squared is equal to M. And that's basically all these equations are doing, is they're taking one basic value equation. The value of a company is, and then dividing by earnings, changing the denominator and say, look, I have a price earnings, I have a price to book, I have a price to sales. So it looks like you're dealing with 15 equations, but what you're actually looking at is the same equation being tweaked around by somebody saying, look, I've discovered something new and different. So I think ultimately if you put these equations next to each other, you'd see that they all are going to the same place. So whether you have an excess earnings model or whether you have a book value model, the algebra is from the same equation. And that's why if you do all of these models right, you should actually end up with the same value for the company using all 15, because the underlying equation is the same. It doesn't matter how you move terms around, you're going to end up with the same final number for the company.
So am I right to say that the investor just need to focus on one and then they do very well in one valuation method?
It depends on the kinds of companies you're investing in, right? So in a sense, if you're investing in mature companies, your focus is purely on earnings power today. If you're focusing on growth companies, your focus has to be on how margins will shift. So it's the younger and more undeveloped a company is, the more variables you have to consider. The more mature a company, the more the story has already been written about a company, the less you have to worry about how the story can change. And so I think it really is a function of what kinds of companies you invest in. And my suggestion is that you don't overreach. Don't reach for companies that you feel uncomfortable with. Because if you're uncomfortable with the company, you're going to do stupid things in your portfolio. You're going to overreact, buy when you should be buying, sell when you shouldn't. So stay within your wheelhouse, stay within your comfort zone, stick with the kinds of companies that you feel comfortable assessing. And then once you feel comfortable reaching out beyond that core space, then go bringing in. But don't do it because other people are going after those companies. There's plenty of choices for you in the rest of the world. So if you never want to buy a social media company, why go looking for trouble? Okay, so if you can understand and value social media companies, that's fine. But if you don't understand them, don't go looking for them.
And one last question. I mean, in Singapore, majority of people, they say, but they don't really invest. So for new starter, for example, with $3,000 or $4,000 US, let's say they want to get started, invest in the stock market and so on. If there is like some good advice for these people, what advice would you give to them? For new starters,
when you have small amounts of money, it's best not to try to buy companies. Just put it in a low-cost index fund, and until the money builds up, that is the best strategy.
Okay.
Because with $3,000, $5,000, you can't buy enough stocks to kind of spread your bets. You're going to put all your money in one company, and then that's asking for trouble. So until you get to a certain critical mass, it's best to avoid picking individual companies. And that critical mass is probably $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. And until you get to that amount, it's safest and most prudent to stay with mutual funds or index funds with low costs.
Okay. Thank you, Prof.
You're
I sincerely appreciate your precious time. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.